solution, so starts with a plan. This plan is called as an algorithm. So algorithm, we can simply say it is just a plan for solving a problem. So there are many ways to write the algorithm. It may be a formal way, it may be an informal way, or it may be a mathematical representation, or it may be a graphical representation. So according to the convenience of the user, we can represent the algorithm. So we want to solve a particular problem. So we are good in representing it in a pictorial form. So it is very useful, very understandable to everyone. Means we can represent in pictorial form. So mathematical is very good, and also a formal way. So a formal way you have studied a formal pseudocode. So that is a formal way of representing the algorithm. And there are also like many informal ways. Example I'm giving here. So the instructions for connecting a DVD player to a television is an algorithm. Just tell me, how will you connect a DVD player to a television? So a step-by-step procedure will be written. So take the wire, put it there first, next step, so you put the switch on. So this is what that step-by-step instructions that will be given. So this is an algorithm. And sometimes an algorithm can also be represented mathematically, such as mathematical representation pi r2. So we can form a generalized equation for the problem. So that is a mathematical representation of the algorithm. So this form is not particularly important as long as it provides a good way to describe and check the logic of the plan. So what is the algorithm development process? So the algorithm development process is obtain a description of the problem. So a problem will be given to you. So this is what usually will happen. This is what usually will happen. Anywhere you go, they will be giving you a problem. Any type of situation. So you were attending some gate problem, some placement questions. So go and attend. So they will be giving you a problem. So obtain a description of the problem. So you should know more about the.
Ma'am, voice கேக்குதா? Ma'am, voice is audible to you all. Please comment, ma'am.
Sir?
Ma'am, Ranjana ma'am, we can't able to hear your voice.
Audible, sir? Sir? Sir, not audible, sir?
Ma'am, it's audible now, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is audible.
Can I speak, sir?
Yes, ma'am, you can go ahead.
Yeah. No, you asked. Okay.
Okay.
So, obtain the description of the problem. If the problem is not known well, so we have to get more description about the problem, because without understanding the problem properly, we will not be able to design a proper algorithm. So a problem should be understood thoroughly. For example, if a customer is giving a problem to the developer, so that they should understand the problem thoroughly by asking more questions to the customer. So obtain a description of the problem. So more descriptions of the problem have to be obtained. Then analyze the problem. The problem have to be analyzed. So this can be how this problem can be carried out, how we have to do solve this problem, and what are all the other issues we will face, what is the technical we need to do in this problem. So this is like analyzing the problem and develop a high level algorithm. So this is a high level algorithm. It's an algorithm which is done for several steps. So this is the high level algorithm. A high level of algorithm is developed. So high level means first we will be initially saying only take suppose I want to go to a shop to buy a birthday card. So this is simple step, go to a shop, buy birthday card. So the next step is how I am going to the shop and which shop I am going and what type of cards I'm going to buy. So this is a high level. So detailed description of the algorithm have to be developed. This is a high level algorithm. And then refine the algorithm by adding more details. So this, when we develop a high level algorithm, we have to refine the algorithm. So add more details to the algorithm, not only stop with only a few steps. So we have to add some more steps. We have to do some more detailed addition to the steps by adding more details. And then after that, review the algorithm. The algorithm have to be reviewed. So in this way, this is the algorithm development process. So while developing the algorithm, I told you we are developing this algorithm only for the efficiency performance, improve the efficiency of the code. So the space efficiency and the time efficiency are the two important factors where we will be using to optimize the code. So space efficiency is nothing but the memory required is also called as space complexity. And other one is the time efficiency. So the time required is also called as the time complexity. So what is a space complexity? So there are some circumstances where the space of the memory used to be analyzed. For example, the large quantities of data for an embedded system programming, we need more space. So the components of the space also can be classified as the fixed memory space and a dynamic memory space. So fixed, static, and compile time. So this is a memory space that will be used during the compile time, and we can use the other word that is known as static. Like the same way, we have variable and dynamic memory space. So this fixed space are the machine language instructions and static variables, whereas the variable components are the running time stack usage, and they are dynamically allocated memory usage. So the instructional space affected by the compiler options and target computer, whereas there are instructional space, the data space, and runtime stack space. So these were the spaces. So for these things all, only the space will be occupied. So the data space is affected by the data size, dynamically allocated memory, static program, and variables. And runtime stack space is affected by the compiler, runtime functions called recursion, local variables, parameters, and other things. So coming to the time efficiency, when we talk about the time efficiency, clearly the more quickly how the task is accomplished fast. So that is the time efficiency. The actual running time depends on many factors like the computer CPU, the input output, the compiler options, and other things. The quantity of data, what is the size of the data, whether it is a small list or it is a big list, and actually what is the data, whether we are doing a sequential search, if it is in the first or last. So this is what the factors that will decide the time efficiency. Now, this time efficiency approach, we are going to generalize, because I told you the time efficiency, suppose I say I am running a time, the same program in one processor, a low-end processor, the time will be more. Suppose I take the same program and run in a high-end processor, the time efficiency will be good. So I cannot say the efficiency of the program based on that processor time. So that should be a generalized way to count the time. So the order of magnitude or asymptotic categorization is used. So this uses the coarse categories and gives a general idea of performance. If the algorithm falls into the same category, and if the data size is small or if the performance is critical, then the next approach can be looked. So estimating the running time. So we can estimate the running time by operations count and step count method. This will be generalized for everything. So operation count, operations are nothing but the number of times the operation is performed in the algorithm. Suppose we perform plus 2 times, multiplication 3 times, and into 2 into 3 into suppose I'm doing it n times. So 2 plus 3 into n. Suppose I'm running the loop n times, that is for 10 times. So 10 into 50. So we will be computing the operation count. So number of operations. Operations are the operators, how many times the operations are performed, and based on the step count. Step count determines the total number of steps. Maybe possibly we will write the lines of code. Lines of code is the number of steps. So how many steps are there in the code, and what are all the operations, and how many times the operations are performed. So this is the way how we will be generalized. We will be calculating the time efficiency. And this is also a general thing which you all would have studied. There are 3 types of complexity. So they are known as the average case, best case, and worst case. So usually we will be using the worst case analysis for calculating the time complexity, because it gives the upper bound on the performance, and additionally it is hard to determine, and it is often the same as worst case. Average cases also. So we, under some circumstances, it may be unnecessary to analyze all these 3 cases. So you will be knowing, I hope, this big O notations, the big O notation. So there were different notations based on these categories: worst case, best case, and average case. The worst case category is the big O notation, which we will be usually representing for analyzing the time complexities. So these were some of the basic efficiency classes, which is return in ascending order. So if it is 1, it is a constant. If it is n, it is logarithmic. It is if it is log n, it is logarithmic. If you call n, it is linear, and n log n, quadratic, n squared, cubic, n cube, and 2 to the power n is exponential and factorial. So this is the way how which we will be writing the efficiency classes. Now I'm coming to you to tell how will you select a proper design technique for the algorithm. Now this slide, I told you these were the time efficiency. Suppose I am getting an algorithm which runs in cubic. Another person is writing an algorithm which writes in quadratic. The person algorithm who has developed the algorithm using the quadratic efficiency, we will be considered as an efficient one than the cubic. So always the aim is to reduce the time reduce the time complexity. That means to increase the efficiency, improve the efficiency of the algorithm. That is the aim. So that will be the question asked anywhere. When you go for any placement, they will give you a piece of code. They will be asking you, how will you improve the efficiency of the algorithm? Because you all know nowadays the time efficiency is very, very important. If we take a mobile phone, click on some app, click on some application, immediately we want the result. Even a small second also we won't be waiting. So that much fast it has to run. So whether the program which runs so fast is what is needed of the hour now. So for that we have to design an efficient algorithm. So for algorithm efficiency, there are different types of algorithmic technique, algorithm design technique, some like brute force technique, divide and conquer, greedy, dynamic programming, backtracking, branch and bounds, and many other techniques you have. But here I'm going to talk to you about the 3 important techniques that is known as the divide and conquer technique, the greedy algorithms, and the dynamic programming. So these were some of the technique by how we can solve the problem. Solve the problem. We are getting a problem. So how we will be solving the problem? I'll be giving you, because you all have studied many examples, I will give you a small example, but by how you will be understanding this. So first one is the divide and conquer technique. So divide and conquer technique has 3 parts. So this divides. This involves dividing the problem into subproblem and conquer. The subproblems are conquered by calling recursively until subproblem is solved, and then combine the subproblem solved so that we will get the final problem solution. So this is the divide and conquer technique. So divide and conquer technique, if you see, you can represent. I have shown you that it can be represented by using. It is represented by using this diagram. So this is the problem. The problem is divided into 2 subproblems. And then the solution to the subproblem is obtained, and then from the solution we will be combining to get the solution to the original problem. So whenever a problem is given to you, you have to think of how we can solve this problem. What algorithm design technique we can use, because there might be several techniques. And sometimes you need not develop a new algorithm. That's what I wanted to say here. Whenever a programmer means a programmer, it is not that programmer every time has to think of his own new logic and he has to write his own logic. Whatever the logic, whatever is available, already existing algorithm, he can take and make use of it. So already existing algorithm and a well-known algorithm. Well-known algorithm means which algorithm that is proven to be efficient. So that algorithm also can be taken and he can make use of that. So in this way, the algorithm can be taken and make use of. So this is the divide and conquer technique. So divide and conquer technique, as you all know, I'm coming to the next slide where we will be giving what all the algorithms that you have studied in the theory part, that is in your subject, about the divide and conquer technique. So there are 2 fundamentals in the divide and conquer strategy. First is the relational formula. So relational formula is that we generate from the given technique. After generation of the formula, we apply divide and conquer strategy. That is, we break the problem recursively and solve the broken subproblems. So break the problems and solve the problems. When we break the problems using divide and conquer strategy, we need to know that how much time it will take to break the problem, and we need to apply the divide and conquer method, so that we will be doing dividing, finding the solution, and then combining the solution. Simple problem I am giving you. These were the problems which you would have studied: binary search, binary sort, not linear search, binary search, merge sort, quick sort. So these were some of the well-known problems that are solved using divide and conquer technique. A simple example I'm giving you how they will be asking a question, because merge sort, quick sort, binary search, that all well-known example which you will be doing. So here is a simple example. Let us say we have eight numbers. Okay. Now we have a number 46328. Sorry, and break 4632871. So those were the 8 numbers. Sorry, and we'll break them into 4 parts. We will get how we will be adding up. Suppose I am adding 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. 1 number means it will take time. So instead of that, what I will be doing is I will be adding two numbers together and finally combining. So this is a simple technique. So divide and conquer algorithm tries to break a problem into as many smaller little chunks as possible, so as to make the solve it easier. So it is, and then it can be done using recursion. So this is the main aim of the divide and conquer technique. So this is a well-known example which you all have studied: binary search. Binary search is a problem. The solution. Suppose search. This is a search problem. Search problem is a problem which will be asked. Find out the element is present in the given list or not, or an array. So this is the search problem. So they are saying the naive solution or the usual solution. Suppose a list is given to you. I'm giving 100 list, name list, and asking you to find out whether a particular person name list is found in that list or not. So you will be searching it. You will be searching it from the top, that is from one by one, and checking to find out whether that person is present or there. So this type of search is usually done, that is known as the linear search. So linear search, what will be the complexity of the linear search? Because we have said the complexity is in O of n, because suppose I say 100 names are there in the list, the number of times you have to search the list is 100 times. Maximum, because we have already seen, we are going to see only the worst case analysis. So number of times we have to see, this is the worst case, that is n times. Now the same algorithm, same technique, I am going to solve using this other method that is known as a binary search. Binary search is a technique which will apply divide and conquer technique. For example, in your class name list, if you take, the names will be in a sorted order. It will be in the alphabetical order. So if the name is in the alphabetical order, we need not go for the concept called that linear search, because name is already sorted by means of the your registration number. So name or anything. Now we have to apply the divide and conquer to solve efficiently. The order of the time complexity will be order of log n. Now, what is the order of log n? Already also I told you that above log n. So log n is actually approximately equal to n by 2. So that's what we will say, log n. So here you have a binary search code algorithm for binary search. An array is passed. So there is the divide. So this is the diagrammatic representation. An element which we are searching for, if it is present in the middle element, first we will divide the array into 2. The logic of this is divide the array into 2 and search for the middle element. If the middle element that is present is already in the array, then is the element which we are searching for, then that is given as the searched element. Otherwise, the element that we are searching for is greater than the middle element. We need not search one part of the list. We can directly go for the right side part of the list. And if the element that we are searching for is present in the left side of the list, that is less than that, we'll be searching only for the left side. Then again, for that part of the list also, then that part of the list also, we have to do the search again. So this is the technique that will be adopted for divide and conquer. So mid element, A of mid gives a mid element in the array, and it is searched with the K, and it is recursively called. This process will be continued like this. So the complexity of the search is reduced. That is from O of n. Like I told you, O of n is linear. That is n times. Now, suppose I perform the operation 100 times. Now, this time when I am doing like this, the operations that can be performed is only 50. So I am reducing it. So this is one of the way by which the code, we will be improving the efficiency of the code. So improve the code efficiency by means of this is another way. So code efficiency is improved by using this technique. The next one we will be seeing is the complexity analysis. So this is the complexity analysis. Like I told, we say it is we say A and n and n by 2. Now, time complexity for searching of what is T of n, some generalized form. That is, I'm bringing it to a generalized form in a form of a recurrence relation. T of n is the time complexity for searching the value of k in the size of the array. So that is the overall time, T of n. And divide, for dividing how many operations. Divide is an operation. Like I told you first, the operation that is performed is also we should take. So operation O of n, because the middle index can be calculated in a constant time. And then conquer. So it is also a time complexity of recursively solving the problem of size n by 2. So for solving this problem of size n, it takes T of n. Now I'm dividing the list and then divide the list and calculating the time complexity. So it is T of n by 2. And for combining again, we have a constant value that is known as 1, O of 1. So the recurrence relation for the above problem can be written as the total time complexity is T of n by 2 plus O of 1. So O of 1 is suppose we say the number of times, instead of n, we represent the time complexity as 1, 2 or 3, whatever it is, we say that as a constant. So usually that will be ignored, because when we take a huge value of n plus a small value, 1 or 2 value, need not be taken into consideration. So that will be, because the time complexity that we are representing in an ordered notation is an approximation, not the exact value. So these were some of the examples of the divide and conquer technique, like binary search, merge sort, quick sort, dissonance matrix multiplication. So binary search, merge sort, quick sort, all you have studied. I don't know whether you have studied this dissonance matrix multiplication. So matrix multiplication usually has 3 for loops. Hope you all know when we have the 3 for loops, the complexity for that will be in the order of n cubed. So based on the coding itself, look at the code itself and we can say the time complexity. So matrix usually multiplication, you take 3 loops. So it will be in O of n cubed. Whereas when we use this divide and conquer approach in dissonance matrix multiplication, the time complexity is reduced to n to the power 2.8. So some factor, instead of n cube, we are reducing it to 2.8. So this is also a simplified, reducing the time complexity. On the problems such as Tower of Hanoi are also simplified by this approach. Tower of Hanoi problem, this also they've applied the divide and conquer technique and they have reduced the time complexity. This approach is suitable for multi-processing system and it makes efficient use of memory caches. Now, divide and conquer. Now coming to dynamic programming. So what is the difference between divide and conquer? Divide and conquer, most of you might be knowing and have applied in many places. Dynamic programming. So what is a dynamic programming? Is a general algorithm design technique for solving a problem defined by a formulated as recurrences over overlapping sub-instances. Simply, I will say this is also same like divide and conquer. Divide and conquer also, we will divide the problem into sub-problems. Here also, we will be dividing the problems into sub-problems. But here, that sub-problems will be solved separately and then we will combine the sub-problem to find the solution. But here, this sub-problem will be giving up. That is, it will build up. And the smaller sub-problem solution will be making use of that. The next higher level problem, we will be able to solve it. So that is why we call this as a overlapping sub-instances. So small problem, based on that solution, the next smaller problem depends on. So set up a recurrence relating. So the main idea for this dynamic programming is to set up a recurrence relating a solution to larger instance to solution of some smaller instance. So from the smaller instance, a recurrence relation is built. So recurrence, The answer for that smaller instance will be given as the input for the next instance, and that answer they will make use of that and calculate, and that will be given to the next instance. So solve smaller instance once, record solution in a table and exact solution to the initial instance from the table. So this idea is just to simply store the results of the subproblem so that we need not calculate again and again. So dynamic programming can be categorized into two types. So where this dynamic programming problem comes. So optimization problem, this is very, very, very important problem. Optimization problem. So optimization problems are the problems that you will select you select a feasible solution so that the value of the required function is minimized or maximized. I am coming to the optimization solution. Optimization solutions are, you will be getting a solution, but you know which will be a optimal solution. So that is what is the problem. I don't know whether you would have studied, I think, a knapsack problem. A knapsack problem is a problem where a thief, the aim of the thief is to fill the sack with the costliest thing what he has got. So that instance, what he will be doing is he will be filling the sack. Anyhow, the thief will be filling the sack. So the problem, there will be a solution for the problem. He can, but what optimal way? That is, what is the maximum profitable way he is filling the sack? So that is what is known as the optimization problems. So combinatorial problems expect you to figure out the number of ways of doing something, or probability of some events happening. So these problems are known as the combinatorial problems. So these problems, number of ways we can solve the problem, in what are all the ways. So these problems can be solved using the dynamic programming. So this, how this will be solved? I told we have a problem will be divided into smaller subproblems, and the instance of the small problem will be. So this also can be done in two ways. That is a bottom-up approach or a top-down approach. So for example, I'm going to learn programming. Then what will I do? Then I will start practicing. Then I will sit taking parts in contests. Then I'll practice even more and try to improve. Then after working hard like crazy, I'll be an amazing coder. So this will be the step. So first you will start, then take part in the contest. Again you practice, then again work hard, then become a coder. Suppose it is a bottom-up fashion, means I'll be an amazing coder. So how I will be amazing coder? I will work hard like crazy. How I will work hard like crazy? I will practice more and more and try to improve. And how I will try to improve? I'll start taking parts in contests. So then I'll practice. Then I'll go. So how? Finally, I'm going to learn programming. So this is the bottom-up approach. So this building up the problems can be in any way. Can be a top-down approach or it can be a bottom-up approach. Examples for dynamic programming algorithm are computing the binomial coefficient, longest common subsequence problem, and Warshall's algorithm for transitive closure. And also you have one more algorithm for finding the transitive closure and all path shortest path. So these problems all comes under the dynamic programming. So the core idea, what are the advantages of dynamic programming? The core idea of dynamic programming is to avoid repeated work by remembering partial results. So when I told you we are storing the results of the subproblem, the memory will be storing the answer of the partial results. And this concept finds the application in lots of real-world situations. Mostly real-world situation, if we want to find a solution for something, we have to find, keep something in memory. Okay, this is what has happened. So based on this, we will be trying to find the solution for the next thing. So that is the main idea behind this. So this is applied in real-world situation. In programming, dynamic programming is a powerful technique that allow you to solve the types of problems in O of n squared or O of n3, for which an AB approach should take exponential time. So this is what we were saying. So exponential time is more time. When we say exponential, the word exponential means it is more time. When we say it is O of n cubes, that means it is a polynomial time complexities. A simple example for dynamic programming, write down 1 plus, that is 8 times 1 on a sheet of paper. What that equals to? Suppose I say, what is this equal to? So counting 8. So what writes down the number, another number, 1 plus on the left? What about that? 9. How would you know? Already I have given you this 8 once and I have asked you what is the answer. So you know, you will say the answer is 8. Then I will say add +1 to it and tell me the answer. You will not go again and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9 because you have in your memory that 8 is already there. 8, you know the answer for this question is 8. So already you have it in your memory. So what will you do? You will just add that one and you'll tell the answer is 9. So this is the simple example for dynamic programming. So whatever the partial solution that is there will be in the memory. So based on the memory values that is there in the memory, it will be easy to answer. So this is the dynamic programming concept. And then 9. So how you added? So this is the very way. This is the technique that is used by dynamic programming. So you need not recount because you're having everything in the memory. Next we come for the greedy algorithm. Now I hope you understood the difference between divide and conquer and dynamic programming. Divide and conquer is also dividing the problem into subproblems. This also you will be dividing the problem into subproblems, but the difference is the subproblem, when you are having the solutions of the subproblem will be taken into consideration for finding the original problem. So that is the difference here. Now we go to another technique that is known as a greedy technique. So greedy technique is other technique which we will see here. So greedy algorithm, from the name itself it's suggested, because I'm just telling you simplest way by which you will be understanding what a greedy algorithm is, because you would have studied formal definitions in your theoretical subjects when you're writing the theory. So the name itself suggests always makes the choice that seems to be the best at the moment. So that is greedy. So greedy, we will always take whatever we see first as good. So that is a greedy. So this means that it makes a local optimal choice in the hope that this choice will lead to the global optimal solution. We will not see about the globally, whether finally or globally this is the correct, whatever we selected, the choice we selected is the best choice. But at that moment, whatever we find at that moment, we will select that route. For example, I will tell you, suppose I want to find the route from going from one place of Chennai to some of your native place or something like Madurai or something. So first, what I will do is, first I will not see the global route. What is the shortest route? I am going to start from my home town, means I will see in what way I will reach the railway station. So that is the best possible route. That is the local. So local optima. So local best thing. Optima choice only I will look at. So first from one place that is part of Adayar to a central. So what is the shortest route? I will go only to that route. I will not take entirely the globally the entire city, whichever covers from Madurai to Chennai, and how I will reach there. Immediately, first, what I will look at, how will I reach fast? So that is what is the global optima. So this is the technique that is adopted in greedy. So assume that. So here we have an objective function. We have objective function that needs to be optimized. So we always say an objective function that needs to be either maximized or minimized at the given point of time. For sometimes we say in terms of some cost, what will be the money that we can invest, what money we all will get, the profit we will get. That time means we will say it is either maximized. Suppose I say route problem, it's shortest route I have to travel, then we will say it is a minimized one. So the objective function that has to be optimized. So which one is optimized? Optimized is which one is the maximum good, or which one is maximum profit. We'll say maximum profits. Sometimes the minimum value will give maximum profit. Sometimes the more value will give the maximum profit. So it depends upon the value. So a greedy algorithm makes greedy choices at each step to ensure that the objective function is optimized. And again, this also is used for this optimization. The greedy algorithm has only one shot to compute the optimal solution, so that it never goes back and reverse the decision. Suppose I say I have taken one decision, that is local optima is better. That is, immediately I saw one thing and say this is a better solution. Then I go fast, go up, go behind, and after sometimes I notice that this solution is not good, so cannot come back. So that is what we are saying. The optimal solution, it cannot come back, and that solution, there is no reversing back the solution. Now, what are all the some advantages and disadvantages of the greedy algorithm? So it is quite easy to come up with greedy algorithm or even multiple greedy algorithm for a problem. Very easy, because I told whatever we saw first, good, okay, I will select that. So it is very easy to come. So when we analyze the running time for the greedy algorithm, it will generally be much easier than for other techniques like divide and conquer. For divide and conquer, it is not clear whether the technique is fast or slow. This is because at each level of recursion, the size of the problem gets smaller and the number of sub-problem increases. So this is also one of the things that we have in divide and conquer. We are dividing the problem, solving the problem, but we are not sure of whether we are getting the easiest solution. But greedy, like I told, we are first seeing what is the easiest, what is a possible way, what is the easiest possible way to achieve the solution. We will be doing it. So it is easy to analyze greedy. But when we have talking about some of the disadvantages of the greedy, the difficult part of this greedy algorithm is when you have to work much harder to understand the correctness issue, even with the corrected algorithm. We cannot say the algorithm is always correct. And I will not say that greedy algorithm is an efficient one, always. It may happen to be an efficient one sometimes, and it may not be an efficient one. So it is hard to prove why it is correct, and proving that greedy algorithm is correct is more of an art than science. It involves lots of creativity. So then is like a greedy algorithm gives faster. The answer is very good, but it is not proven that always greedy is a best one. Then greedy technique constructs a solution, possible fees through choices, feasibly, that is, it has feasible, satisfying the constraint, local optima, then greedy terms are irrecoverable. So these are some of the terms we saw now. So what is the greedy technique? Now, where this greedy technique is applied? What are all the solutions that you have studied using this greedy technique? Change making of normal coin denomination. A coin denomination, how will you make the changes? A minimum spanning tree algorithm. This is what you all would have definitely known because you are computer science students. You will know a minimum spanning tree algorithm, the Prince algorithm and Kruskal's algorithm used to find the minimum spanning tree. Single source shortest path problem, that is the Dikshitra's algorithm. Then the simple scheduling problems, Huffman coding problems. So these were all some of the optimal solutions where we will aim for the optimal solutions. They were all optimal solution. We will not be aiming for an exact solution. We'll be aiming for an optimal solution. Now, optimal solutions and approximation solutions, approximation algorithms. Now I have to tell you what is an approximation algorithm. An example is traveling salesman problem, and then knapsack problem, and then other combinatorial optimization problem. So coming here, I will tell you what is an exact and approximation algorithm. Why we go for an approximation algorithm? Exact algorithm means we will expect the answer to be an exact one, exact value. But when we say it is an approximation algorithm, we will not aim for the exact solution. Even approximation solution is better. So you may be thinking why we are saying approximation solution is better. When we expect for an exact solution, the exact solution will be taking more time. The time complexity for obtaining the exact solution is too huge. So we can compromise on that, and an approximation solution can be obtained. Even now you are doing a route mapping problems, which we are all facing, Google Maps, like I told you, the traveling salesman problem. The problem which that salesman has to visit all the cities exactly once. So now, if the number of cities are very, very large, suppose we take the entire world or even in the country, the number of cities, there were a vast number of cities. So if we aim for the exact solution, exact shortest path, exact value, then it will take more time. So to compromise on that, we will be going for an approximation solution. So approximation heuristics. So this will be giving the approximation solution, and the problem can be solved in lesser time. Now, this I don't think that this you would have studied. A simple example I have given you here for a greedy algorithm that is known as an activity selection problem. So activity selection problem, greedy is an algorithmic paradigm that builds up the solution piece by piece. Always choose the next piece that offers the most obvious and immediate benefit. Greedy algorithm is used for optimization problem. So consider this following instance: 6 activities. So an activity selection problem is a problem where there will be several activities. A person can perform perform at most 4 activities. The maximum set of activities can be executed. There were activities 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 activities. The start time of the activities are 1, 3, 0, 5, 8, and 5. That means activity 1 starts at 1 and finishes at 2. The next activity starts at 3. Now you have finished time here. 2, 4, 6, 7, 9, and 9. The second activity can start at 3 and finish at 4. The third activity starts at time 0 and finishes at time 6. The next activity at 5 and 7. The next activity starts at 8 and finishes at 9. The next activity starts at 5 and finishes at 9. So that means these were the different activities. All the activities need not be done at the same time. Some activity will be very small, needs very less time, so it can be executed at a very less time. Some activities may need more time, so it may be taking more time. The person can perform at most 4 activities. So maximum set of activities that can be executed is how to select the maximum set of activities the person can perform. So the perform activity, how they can select. So what they can immediately see is, like I told you, this is a greedy technique, it's a local optima. So immediately the person starts with 1. So 1. So 1 to 2, 1 activity he has selected. So this activity starting time, first activity starting time is 1 and ending time is 2. So next what he can take is that is in the 0th position. Suppose consider this as an array. This answer executed in 0, 1, 3, 4 represents the position on the array. So 0. Then this activity 1 is selected. That is, he is starting an activity at time 1 and finishing at time 2. Then the next activity, he is starting at time 3 and finishing at time 4. Then second activity he cannot select because this activity starts at 0, that is what he has not selected. 0 means even before what he has selected, initial activity, and finishes at 6. So that he has not selected. So again he is selecting activity that is 5. So 5 taking the activity 5. So starting the activity, start time is 5 and end time is 7. He is finishing at 7. And then the next activity starting at 8, taking 8 and finishing it on 9. So he is taking 1, 3, 5 and 8. So these were the activity start times he is taking. And one more thing you have to note down here, some places when one activity is going on, the other activity also starts before one activity finishes. For example, 1 to 2, 3 to 4, and suppose we say 5 to 7. The next activity is starting only at 8. The last activity, if you say 5 to 9, 8 to 9, this activity is from 8 to 9, but that activity starts at 5 itself and it is finishing only at 9. So how this activity can be performed is the person just look at the first activity, taking the first activity, and based on that, like a connection he is giving, 1 to 2 he is taking, then 3 to 4 he is taking, then again 5 to 7 he is taking. Then 5 to 7 is over. Then 8 to 9. So continuously he is working. He is taking some 4 activities continuously. So this gives the optimal solution. So there are 6 activities. So this gives the optimal solution. He is executing it in a correct order. But we are not sure whether this is exactly which is not proven. But mostly it may be aiming for the optimal solution. So this is the greedy technique, an example for a greedy technique. So greedy methods can solve problems, generally becomes the best method to solve the problems, as greedy algorithms are more efficient than other techniques like dynamic programming. But greedy technique cannot be applied. So when you apply a greedy technique, definitely this solves a problem better than the dynamic programming. But always we will not say, any technique will not say it is the more important technique. Now I have given you the concepts of what is dynamic programming, what is divide and conquer, and what is greedy. Now some sample questions that I have taken from the previous year GATE questions, and some of the placement questions are these things. So which design techniques is used by merge sort algorithm? So this is a well-known algorithm. You all know merge sort. So this question, the answer to this question is very, very easy. So they will ask divide and conquer, backtracking, dynamic programming, and the answer is questions does not provide sufficient data or it is vague. So definitely the answer is well known because it is a direct question, because it is a divide and conquer technique. Is an algorithm that is a technique that is used for merge sort algorithm. Now, same divide and conquer technique I'm coming. Consider a polynomial a of 0, a1 of x, a2 of x squared, a3 of x cubed, where a of I is not equal to 0 for all I. The minimum number of multiplication needed to evaluate the expression. What is the minimum number of multiplication needed? Because here, if you see, it is a of a squared, a to the power 3. So what will be the minimum number of when you use divide and conquer technique? So the answer is somewhat difficult. You will be thinking of, because here a2 we have x squared. So x into x and a into x, a2 into x2. So that is one multiplication. Then we will think of x cube and a into x cube. So these were some of the things that will come in mind. X into x into x into a3. So this is the maximum number of times the multiplication that is performed is a3 into x3 into x3. So that is 3 times. So the answer for this is 3. Because we are not going to do everything together. We are going to divide this problem. The polynomial problem is divided, and based on this division only we are going to solve. So the maximum number of multiplication that we'll be doing in only one function. So it is a recursive function. So the number of multiplication that will be carried out is only 3. And this question is also based on the divide and conquer technique. Consider a situation where you don't have to calculate power function in C, and you need to calculate x to the power n, where x of n, x to the power x can be any number and n is a positive integer. What can be the best possible time complexity of your power function? Because you understand the situation, I hope, understood the situation, I hope. Power function. Usually if we say power, it can be any power. Power function is not working in the laptop computer. And so you need to calculate x to the power n. The value x is something and n can be any n. N can be anything. So where x of n can be any number and n is a positive integer, what can be the best possible time complexity? Because here if you see, we are applying the divide and conquer technique. X is equal to 5, n is equal to 2. Suppose you say n is equal to 2, it will be n squared. So now we are using a technique that is called here, we are using a technique that is known as a divide and conquer technique. So divide and conquer technique, if we say, it need not be doing the same thing. So one time only we will be multiplying. So one time only it will be multiplied and then that will be added together. So the maximum number of, because multiplications, we will be multiplying n, 5 into n, that is 5 into 5. Then again 5 into 5. So 5 to the power of 1, 5 to the power of 2, will be there. The n can be anything, 2, 3 or 4, whatever it may be. But anytime you perform, you are dividing, like just performing the addition. X is equal to 5, n is equal to 2. So x is equal to 5 plus 5. So I'm just performing the addition, any n times. So based on the n, If n is equal to 10 means 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 10. So the number of functions that I can perform will be even in O of n. So based on the n value. So that will be the answer for this question. Now, some of the questions using dynamic programming. What happens when a top-down approach of dynamic programming is applied to any problem? So top-down approach of dynamic programming, if I apply to any problem, what will happen? It increases both the time complexity and space complexity. It increases the space complexity and decreases the time complexity. It increases the time complexity and decreases the space complexity. It increases both the time complexity and space complexity. So always, as I have already mentioned, dynamic programming. When we think of, say, of dynamic programming, the dynamic programming is used to store the intermediate results. Intermediate results, that means it takes more memory. So memory only is more. Other than that, nothing will be more. So dynamic programming is used. The option here we will get for this is the second option, that is B. It increases the space complexity and decreases the time complexity. So this is the answer. So wherever questions like comes like using a dynamic programming, you have to see where it says talks about the memory space, because we say dynamic programming, we are aiming to store the memory space. So memory space increases. It may increase, but I told you more than that. First itself, our aim is to decrease the time complexity. That is always the aim. So time complexity, to decrease the time complexity, the memory space is increased. So that will be the answer. So you are given indefinite coins in denomination of 1, 3, 5, 4. What is the total number of ways in which these coins can be made? What are the ways in which the sum 7 can be achieved using these coins, if the order of the coins is not important? So this is also using a dynamic programming. A coin denomination, a 1 coin, a 1, or we can call a 1 pice coin, or a 1 rupee coin, or a 1 3 pice coin, or a 4 pice coin. Some denomination we have. What is the total number of ways in which a sum of 7 can be achieved using these coins, if the order of the coins is not important? So what are all the ways we can get? So this is the question. A sum of 7 can be, how a sum of 7 can be achieved? A sum of 7 can be achieved in what are all the ways? Suppose I take 1, 1, 1, 1. So this is one of the way. And then another way is all ones and only, 4 ones and 1 3, and 1 ones and 3 3s, and 3 ones and 1 4, and 3 and 4. So these were therefore the sum can be achieved in 5 ways. So this dynamic programming also takes you and tells you what are all the results, that is the intermediate. 1 1 1 we can take. So okay, 1 1 1. And then how we can take the next coin. So it aims for taking the next coin, that is the 3. First it uses only 1, and then it uses the 3, and then also other way also it uses the 3, then 4, and then 3 and 4. So it can be achieved using 5 ways. Next problem. Let's suppose we run a single source shortest problem using a Dikshitra's algorithm. So Dikshitra's algorithm, you all know, it is a single source shortest problem. There are many shortest path problems that you have. Single source shortest path problem is a problem in which a source will be from one place. We have to reach to all the other destinations. Suppose I take here P is the source. From P, what is the shortest path to go to Q? What is the shortest path from P to R, from P to S, P to T, and P to Q? So this is the single source shortest path problem. So single source shortest path problem, how this can be achieved using a greedy technique. Now you have to, when I say greedy technique, you have to remember what a greedy technique is. What is a greedy technique, and what did I told you about the greedy technique? A greedy technique is a technique to find the single shortest path problem, and this technique, what is the main usage of this technique? This technique, immediately when we say greedy, we should think of the term that is known as the local optima. So local optima, aiming for the local optima, and from local optima, it will be coming to the global optima. So local optima means whichever is local optima is whichever I find first to be small. So first, there are many vertex. Suppose you take in this graph, there are nodes, that is PQ, PQ, R, S, T, U. So these were the number of nodes that I have in this graph. And then the number of vertices I have in this graph is with different values. So 1, the vertices value, that is 1, indicates some path, that is our distance for traveling from or going from 1 to peak to Q. So for going from P to Q, it take 1. It may be in any unit, it may be a kilometer, 1 kilometer. Like the same way, for going to P to T, it takes 7. So I take the source vertex as a P vertex. Suppose I say P, because this is a single source shortest path problem. The aim is to reach from P, that is single source. So the aim is to reach from this one, means I have to see how should I reach here. So immediately I told this is a greedy technique. So always you should take your mind. The answer should come as first I will see only the local optima. This is what I have already told you when I told about the moving from one city to, suppose I want to go from Chennai to Madurai, how will I reach the station, central railway station? So first I will see, first this, suppose I want to reach from any place, P to R, P to U, whatever it may be. First what will be selected is P to Q, because that is the local optima, that is a minimum value. Minimum value. This is a graph, directed graph. Why I call this is a directed graph is I can go from P to Q, but we can't go from Q to P. It is a direction oriented. Some routes are also, route maps are also like that. We can have a one way. We can go only in one direction. We cannot come back. All the roads are not two ways. So here also, I can immediately select P to Q. So P to Q. Then, okay, reach Q. Then Q, where will I go? What are all the other nodes I can reach from Q? So the other nodes I can reach from Q, or the other nodes I can reach from Q is R and S. So R, S, and already there is no path from to P. So R and S, out of R and S, which can be selected? So the node that can be selected is only R. Now R is selected. Then you see the values of the edges. The values of the edges are from R are 2 and 1. So R to U is 1, and then R to S is 2. Sorry. So I'll select the edge again 1. That is this with minimum value. That is R to U 1. So again local optima. Whichever is local, whichever I find minimum, so that is selected 1. So R to U is selected. Then from U, then you take from we are selecting from R to U. Then a node that has to be selected is from U, that is not reachable to anywhere, and so we have to go for already whichever node that is visited. That is the technique which we follow in Dikshitra's algorithm. You have to take the indirect route, that is the route which we have already traversed, that is Q, and through Q or R, how we will reach S. So through Q or R, if we reach through R, it is S. So S will be visited. So from S, where all it is possible to go is only the node which is not reached is only T. So T can be reached through value T. So if I find the total value 1 plus 1 plus 1, that is P to Q is 1, Q to R is 1, R to U is 1, and U to S, because U to S is not possible, so R to U, that is 2, and then again 3. So I'm not taking up the higher values. That is the node, that is the edges which takes more time or more kilometer to travel is not considered at all here. So 7 is completely left, 6 is completely left, and 4 is completely left. Though I take the optimal value, the local optimal value, that will be also a global optimal solution. It need not be the best one. Sometimes we say it need not be the best one, but mostly this will be giving the optimal solution. So the answer to this problem is answer B, TQRUST. Because local optima, just like that, select the route with minimum distance, and then we will see. So this is the problem that is based on greedy technique. Then this is another one smaller problem which everyone will answer. I'm here at my home and I have to reach a restaurant. So to reach the restaurant, there are different possible paths. So what are the different possible ways to reach the restaurant I have? To reach the restaurant, I have different ways I can reach this. I can go through A either, or I can go through B. So these are the ways how I can reach the restaurant. So which path will be taken? Immediately, greedy technique. I am at home. When I am at home, I have to reach the answer is actually the answer is A. I have to go to 1. Either I have to go to 5 and 5. No, I have to go. Immediately I will take the route that is 1. Greedy may end up with good, may not be end up with non-optimal, may end up with non-optimal solution. So here I am at home. I have to go to the next place, means I will select 1. Then I will come to this and select 99. So that side is I have taken as B and this side is A. So the option is I will be selecting the path 100, but even more simplest way is 10 might be there. But leaving all those things, I will be selecting the path that is known as 1 and 99. So that will be giving a very worst solution sometimes. So this is a greedy technique. Now, thank you. Now, any doubts, any questions, please ask me. I'm ready to answer the questions. I've taught you about divide and conquer, greedy, and dynamic programming, and how questions will come on that, and what you all should have in mind when you say divide and conquer, greedy, or dynamic.
Ma'am, do you have a question answer box? Ma'am?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll see that.
Okay.
No chat, no, ma'am.
Oh, no question answer because the participants do not have it permission to talk with you, to interact with you. Okay. If they are having any questions, they will post the questions in the question answer box. Participant, do you have any queries or any questions? You can put it in a chat box. Balaji sir? Balaji sir?
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah, ma'am.
Shall we close the session?
Yes, ma'am. Participants, do you have any questions? Questions are welcome. You can post it in the Q&A sessions. There is an option called Q&A. If you have any doubts, you can post it in Q&A. Otherwise, we'll wind up today's session. Yeah, there is a question from Bala Chaudhapa, sir.
In binary search, if elements are not in sorted order, then what will be the time complexity? So we need not go for binary search, because only elements in sorted order will go for binary search, so that it will be giving the same time complexity like linear search, because linear search gives the time complexity in order of n. So you will be needing O of n. So that will be the worst case time complexity. It will not be in O of log n.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other questions?
Questions went off. Oh, they can't talk, no? Okay.
Now, if you want to talk to the trainer, like you can raise your hand so that we will unmute you. If you are, Stesenen's matrix multiplication, Stesenen's person who found out mathematical formula, that is to calculate
Actually, that is one of the formulas that you have. Some formula, we have it in the syllabus. So to calculate the row and column value, because we know you will be multiplying, no? So he reduces the number of multiplications. What he did is, I'll be telling you what he has done. He has reduced the number of multiplication and he has increased the number of addition. Because you all know, in a matrix multiplication, matrix addition, you need only two for loops, while in case of matrix multiplication only, you need 3 for loops. So you need that 3 for loops, that to n number of times, based on the matrix order. So what this person has done is, he has reduced the number of multiplication and increased the number of addition. So what happens is, the time complexity is decreased from of n cube to of 2.8. So that is a topic that is there. So that is the Stettin's matrix multiplication. Any other questions? Because Stettin's matrix multiplication, I thought you have it in the syllabus. We all have it in the text syllabus also. So, but this is the logic behind that.
Any more questions? So we'll wait for another 2 minutes. If there is any question.
So most of the problems comes in the greedy, dynamic and divide and conquer technique. Yeah, sure. I will be sending the PPT to your organizers. I'll send the PPT to the organizers. Sure, sure.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, sir. Any other questions? Yeah, ma'am.
Okay, I think that's all. I think so, ma'am. Questions? No questions.
Okay, ma'am.
Shall we end the session?
Yeah, okay, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am. Your session was very useful to the students, because so many participants are from our department and second year. It is very useful to them to prepare their curriculum subjects and for their university exams and GATE examinations. Thank you so much, ma'am. Your session was remarkable. And it is a time to tell vote of thanks on this webinar. On behalf of our department and staff coordinators, I extend a very hearty thanks to the Honorable Delegate, Dr. P. Ranjana, fulfilled this session and giving us a lot of information. The way you explained the topic was meritorious. I must thank you, ma'am, as you took out valuable time of your busy schedule. Thank you so much for spending your time. And I must also mention a deep sense of appreciation to all participants, the students. As without you, the session wouldn't have become successful one. A big thank to everyone for your active participation. And for the students, I'm giving one more announcement to you. If you know any of your classmates or your friends wants to